Hi, my name is Chandra DeRamus, and I work for Kentucky State University's Cooperative Extension Program in Family and Consumer Sciences. And today we're going to be talking about the truth behind carbonated drinks, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to take a look at some of the science behind how the sugar that is contained in carbonated drinks and sugar sweetened drinks and beverages, how that impacts our health. And so later on in the presentation, we're going to be joined by Dr. Christopher Grimes, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the science behind carbonated drinks. So have you ever wondered about how much sugar is in a can of soda? Today, we're going to examine the effects of drinking carbonated drinks. Some of the objectives, we're going to provide some facts on the consumption of sugar found in carbonated drinks. Also, we're going to provide evidence to support the idea that consuming too much sugar can lead to various heart disease, high blood pressure, and obesity. To provide some helpful health tips on how to consume less sugar in your diet. So, what are sugar sweetened beverages? Sugar sweetened beverages are any liquids that are sweetened with various forms of added sugars. Some examples of sugar-sweetened beverages are regular soda, fruit drinks, sports drinks, energy drinks, sweetened waters, coffee, and tea. So here are some fun facts about soda. We're going to look at the history timeline here. So back in 1760, carbonated techniques were developed. Then back in 1819, the soda fountain was patented by Samuel Fosstock, and then in 1885, Charles Atherton invented Dr. Pepper in Waco, Texas. In 1942, the American Medical Association recommended Americans limit their intake of added sugar in diets and specifically mentioned soft drinks. In 1959, the first Diet Cola was sold. And then in 1965, soft drinks in cans were first dispensed from vending machines. Then in 1970, plastic bottles for soft drinks were introduced. Then in 1974, the Stay On tab was introduced by Falls City Brewing Company of Louisville, Kentucky. Fun fact, look at that. Then the next one, in 1994, studies linking sugary drinks to weight gain were first reported. And then in 2004, the first connection with type 2 diabetes and sugar-sweetened beverages consumption was published. In 2019, a study of 80,000 women was released by the journal Stroke, and it found that postmenopausal women who drink 2 or more artificially sweetened beverages per day, whether carbonated or not, were linked to an earlier risk of stroke, heart disease, and early death. Here's some more interesting facts about sugar-sweetened beverages. Sugar-sweetened beverages, or sugary drinks, are leading sources of added sugars in the American diet. That made carbonated soft drinks the most popular beverage in the United States, almost 3 times more popular than bottled water, milk, or coffee. Frequently drinking sugar-sweetened beverages is associated with weight gain, obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, and tooth decay. So how much added sugar is too much? Both the World Health Organization and the United States Department of Agriculture recommend a maximum limit of less than 10% of total calories from added sugars daily. For the average diet of 2,000 calories per day, this would amount to fewer than 200 calories or 50 grams of total added sugars. For someone following a keto type diet, total carbohydrates are limited to 5 to 10% of calories, and foods with added sugars are prohibited. Youth consumption of sugar sweetened drinks between 2011 to 2014 concluded that 6 out of 10 youth at 63% drank a sugar sweetened beverage on a given day, while 5 in 10 adults at 49% drank a sugar sweetened beverage on a given day. On average, U.S. youth consume 143 calories from sugar sweetened beverages. Among youth, sugar sweetened beverage intake is higher among boys, adolescents, non Hispanic blacks, or youth living in low income families. So in this display here, we see a 20-ounce soda on the left side and a 20-ounce sports drink on the right side. So obviously we see a big difference in how many grams of sugar is in each of these different beverages. So on the left with the soda, you see 65 grams of sugar at 16.3 teaspoons of sugar. So that would be pretty much the equivalent of taking 16 teaspoons of sugar and consuming it in a drink form. And so over to the right, you have your sports drink at 34 grams of sugar with only 8.5 grams or teaspoons of sugar, which is a lot better for you. The amount of sugar content in a beverage usually depends on the size of the beverage. And the sugar content of the drink or beverage will also depend on if the drink is sugar-free, occurs naturally in the drink, or is processed. If the sugar is processed or added or has added sugars, then the sugars are problematic because they're usually found in foods lacking nutritional value. These added sugars can contribute to the excess calorie intake, which can result in weight gain. So here you see another display showing you the specific amounts of sugar notated in each of these sports drinks or sugar sweetened drinks. So the first one we got here is cola, and it has 16 teaspoons of sugar. Then over here we have the iced coffee with 14 teaspoons of sugar. And then with a little bit more of a surprise, you have 21 teaspoons of sugar. And one thing I did not talk about earlier was the fact that these little spoons here represent how many spoons it would take for you to eat of sugar to consume the amount of sugar that is within each one of these containers. Then over here you have a glass of water with mint in it with a straw, and it has a total content of 0 sugar. So it says ditch sugar and drink water. And the reason why we're talking about the idea of ditching sugar, or at least reducing your sugar or thinking about it, is because the health implications that it causes in terms of increased chances of having diabetes and other health implications. And also there is very little nutritional value in the fact that of over consuming sugar that is not in its natural form. Adult sugar sweetened drinks consumption. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, U.S. adults consume 145 calories from sugar sweetened beverages on a given day. Among adults, sugar sweetened beverage intake is higher among males, young adults, non Hispanic blacks, or Mexican American, or low income adults. So, according to this diagram here, we have 47% of sugar consumption mainly coming from beverages primarily, with 25% at soft drinks, 11% at fruit drinks, 7% at coffee and tea, 3% at sports, energy drinks, and 1% at alcoholic drinks. The rest of it is a combination of snacks and sweets, grains, at The grains is at 8%. The snacks and sweets is at 31%. And mixed dishes is at 6%, dairy at 4%, condiments at 2%, fruits and fruit juice at 1%, and vegetables at only 1%. So the biggest culprit of added sugar is nearly half of the sugar intake, basically coming from the beverages. So the nutrition facts panel on carbonated soft drinks typically includes the serving size and the nutrients provided in a serving. And it also represents calories, total fat, sodium, total carbohydrates, sugars, and protein. And so one thing that you also notice here is that it also has vitamins that are indicated here in the total amount of the percentage of each of those vitamins. So the other thing to note here is that there's actual vitamin intake. So the nutritional value could be a little bit more healthy in this particular case. So in identifying sugars in your diet, thanks to a relatively new update on the nutrition facts label or panel, identifying grams of added sugar is easier than ever before. Added sugars are now listed as their own line item in a total carbohydrate section under total sugars. This allows you to truly see how much sugar is added versus naturally occurring. So here in this little display, you see a nutrition facts label, and you see that the font is much larger than what you would notice in one of the more older nutrition facts label. So one other thing that you'll notice is they have listed the total carbohydrates, sodium, and cholesterol. Identify added sugars. How much added sugars in a serving and how much of the daily maximum? So it kind of gives you a percentage or breakdown here of what your percentage of sugars would be, and it also tells you how many servings you have per container. So it looks at the serving size in terms of that serving size is going to be represented here in terms of the calories, total fat, and your other facts that are listed here. Here you have a display or a little table of different amounts of sugar for different beverages that are listed. Just as a side note, we do not endorse any particular carbonated drink, but we did have to include some name brand drinks due to the presentation and the nature of the presentation or the content. And so in this table here, they have listed Boost with 12 grams of sugar, represented by 3 teaspoons of sugar. Then next to that, they had Red Thunder with 3 teaspoons of sugar, and then Emerge with 3 teaspoons of sugar, Monster at 3 teaspoons, and then KX Energy with 1 teaspoon. And each one of those representing a different amount of sugar in each beverage. So here we have listed the Starbucks Venti White Chocolate Mocha with 18 teaspoons of sugar. Wow. So for that 1 cup of goodness here, you will actually have to consume 18 teaspoons of sugar. So that is a large amount of sugar for that one beverage. So one way you can reduce the sugar in, say, a drink like similar to something that you would have of this nature, you could actually, if the drink includes any type of milk of any kind, you ask for low-fat milk or reduced fat milk. Sugars found in carbonated drinks. This list here includes the names of the sugars that will be listed on an actual ingredient list. So you see here brown sugar, corn sweetener, corn syrup, dextrose, fructose, glucose, lactose, sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, honey, malt syrup, maltose, molasses, raw sugar, and white granulated sugar. So there are many ways that food companies are trying to support the need for people to consume less sugar. Here are some common label statements and what they might mean for you. One of the most common things that they list on the front of packages is reduced sugar or less sugar. This may indicate that there has been a sign of improvement, but all that it really means is that the product has less sugar than a previous version of itself. So it may still have more sugar than you should be consuming. Always check the nutrition facts label and serving size to make the best decisions for yourself. So here we have an actual package of some Quaker nuts and seeds, and it is promoting that it has no added sugar. So sweet recipes that have no sugar added generally do contain some other source of sweetness. Artificial sweeteners include those familiar yellow, pink, and green packet type ingredients such as saccharin, aspartame, potassium, and sucralose. So it has various forms of artificial sweeteners, as you can see. So what it does is it reduces the amounts of or of a taste from a cane or a whole or pure sugar and puts the artificial sweetener that gives you more of that same taste, but without all of the calories and grams that are associated with just regular table sugar. So here are some other artificial sweeteners. Saccharin. Saccharin is a sweet tasting synthetic compound used in food and drink as a substitute for sugar. It's also 600 times sweeter than sugar, so a little bit goes a long way. Saccharin, also known as sweet and low, is a little bit more controversial. Back in 1978, there was a study that was found a connection between this artificial sweetener and bladder cancer in rats. So here's a comparison chart of artificial sweeteners, stevia, and some other artificial sweeteners. And so the main thing to notice on most of these is that they have very low calories to no calories, no calories actually at all. And they are usually a lot sweeter at 200 to 700 times sweeter than sucrose, or another name is table sugar. The only kind for saccharin is possibly carcinogenic. Possibly allergic reactions could happen, to include headaches, difficulty in breathing, skin rashes, hives, and diarrhea. Aspartame is another artificial sweetener, which is 160 to 220 times sweeter than sucrose. It has very small amount needed for sweetening and is has very, very low calorie intake. Possibly carcinogenic is one of the cons, may cause more headaches and more migraines for those of you who are more prone to headaches. And the last, this bottom one, stevia, has 0 fat, 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 100% natural. No scientific side effects discovered yet on that one. So one of the biggest differences here is the genetic makeup of some of, or pretty much all of these sugars. The compound is molecularly different from just your regular table sugar, and it also just has a different taste to it. And so for some, it does take a little bit more of an adjustment to get used to. But if you do have any health concerns, it may be worth the switch. So some other side effects of artificial sweeteners, like we mentioned before, or like I mentioned before, headaches, may cause allergic reactions like skin rash, hives. It says 52% of Americans drink sugar sweetened beverages, calories at home. 48% of sugar sweetened beverage calories are consumed while away from the home. Some artificial sweeteners are carcinogenic. Carcinogenic means that they may cause cancer. Some other additives found in sodas and contact substances. It says only food and color additives are determined to be safe based on scientific information available to Food and Drug Administration. The FDA may be used in carbonated soft drinks. For example, this might include additives such as citric acid as a flavoring or a preservative or a caramel coloring. Food contact substances. The materials found on the carbonated drink containers comes in contact with such as bottles and cans, which it is sold, and also are strictly regulated for safety. Some other interesting facts about additives in beverages is artificial or preservative known as benzene. Benzene is a carcinogen that may form in very small levels in some carbonated soft drinks that contain benzoate salts, and they're added to inhibit growth of a bacteria, yeast, and mold, and absorbic acid known as vitamin C. The Food and Drug Administration has no standard for benzene in beverages other than bottled water. For bottled water, the Food and Drug Administration has adopted the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency maximum contaminant level of 5 parts per billion, or ppb, for drinking water as a quality first standard. The Food and Drug Administration has determined that the levels of benzene found in beverages to date do not pose a safety concern for consumers. The Food and Drug Administration, or other known as FDA, continues to test beverage samples for the presence of benzene. Part 2 of this presentation, Dr. Christopher Grimes is going to go into a little bit more science and a little bit more about the health implications about consuming too much sugar from soda or from sugar-sweetened beverages. And so that concludes my part of the presentation.
Hey everyone, so I'm Dr. Grimes, and I am an associate professor of nutrition and health at Kentucky State University, and also a lead scientist in the Center for Cancer and Nutrition Research. And so I'm really excited about being here and talking to you a little bit about sugar and soda and carbonated drinks and things like that. And so I'm just going to talk briefly, and so my part is going to be fairly brief, but Chandra has done a great job leading us up to this point, and so I'm going to just tack on a little bit here at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And so let's just talk to you a little bit about the tips to reduce sugar in the diet. And so sugar has been known for quite some time to be detrimental to our diet, especially added sugars. And so we need sugar in our diet, but natural sugars, which we get from fruits and vegetables and our whole grain foods like breads and cereals and things like that, those types of sugars are beneficial to us as long as we're not going above and beyond what we need. But it's when we get our sugars from sodas and candies and snacks and things like that, that's when it starts becoming a problem. And so, in fact, there are some scientists that even will classify sugar or added sugar almost like a drug. Now, this isn't official, but it's sort of because sugar can be addictive. It has addictive properties, these sweets and things like that. And so so it's something that we need to talk about. And so, what are some tips to reduce sugar in our diet? Well, the first is it happens in beverages, and so the easiest way to get added sugar in our bodies is by drinking too many sodas, juices, power drinks, things like that that we really don't need and have very little benefit to us. And so one tip is just to reduce the amount of beverages that have added sugars, and so drink more water instead of sugar-sweetened beverages. Secondly, reduce the portion. And so you don't necessarily, like for instance, if you're drinking 3 or 4 Mountain Dews a day, it's going to be difficult to go, from 60 to 0 immediately, just stopping on a dime. So just reduce your portion. And so any type of reduction like that is going to benefit your health, anywhere from calorie intake all the way to your increased blood sugar. So your chances of getting diabetes and other morbidities is going to be reduced just by reducing the amounts that you drink each day. A third is to substitute those drinks with low-fat or fat-free milk. And so many individuals that drink a lot of soda and juices and power drinks are not drinking enough milk, getting enough dairy in their diet. So then they are deficient in calcium and vitamin D. And so substitute low-fat and fat-free milk for those sugars, or for those other beverages, and then you get the benefit of the calcium and the vitamin D as well. Now, milk also has sugar in it, but it's not nearly as detrimental to us as the sugar that's added in those soft drinks. And then finally, drink fruit or vegetable juice with no added sugar. So make sure that you look for those bottles that have no sugar added labeled on them, and look at your ingredients list, look at your labels, your nutrition labels, to make sure. But fruit drinks and vegetable juices that have no added sugar can also be beneficial. Now, just as a caution, it is always better to choose whole fruits rather than juices, because then you get an amount of fiber and you get more vitamins and nutrients with that whole fruit as compared to the just the straight juice. And it also adds that the whole fruit still has the juice in it. So that's just a tip from us. More tips: read food labels. And so if your food label, along with the ingredients, includes like syrup, molasses, cane juice, other types of fruit concentrate, then you know right there that it's going to be added sugars. Now, the new food labels are intended to have added sugars listed on them. And so you really want to reduce the percentage of added sugars that you're eating or drinking each day. Instead of adding sugar to enhance the flavor, add spices. So like cinnamon, nutmeg, those types of spices can add flavor and add not necessarily a sweetness, but can substitute for that sweetness and don't be detrimental to your health. Enjoy fruit desserts and remove the added sugars from your diet. And so, for instance, fruit salads that don't have added syrups or sugars to them, other types of like smoothies and other types of desserts can be parfaits, can be a really good benefit to you without adding a bunch of added sugars. And then finally, drink plain or sparkling water, unsweetened tea, or sugar-free beverages in order to get that kick that you want. Now, another tip is to cut fruit up and put it in water. And so you have the natural fruit sugars that get added to the water, but they're not added sugars, and so they're beneficial to your health in general. And so what are some of the benefits? And so we know that by reducing the amount of sugar that we drink, that we're all of a sudden going to improve our health. But what are some of the more specific ways? Well, we know that reducing the amount of sugar will improve our sleep. It will improve our teeth, especially with children. You avoid things like dental caries and cavities and things like that. Improved energy, and so the more water you drink, you will have more energy. You'll have more spunk to get up and go. You're going to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes, so that on adult onset, if you will, diabetes, you're going to reduce your chances of getting that. You're going to improve your heart health. You're going to decrease your risk of osteoporosis because you're not going to have that the calcium sucking sodas that are there. So you'll be at a less risk of getting osteoporosis. You're going to decrease anxiety and nervousness. That's what some research has dictated. And also there's going to be some weight loss possibly, because added sugars can really rack up the calories. And so those are benefits. In addition, we know that cancer can be related or correlated with weight and with sugar additions as well. And so you can also benefit from that as well by reduction in cancer threat. And so here are some other guidelines. So we know that the American Heart Association recommends for women that they take in no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day, men no more than 9. And we also see that children should have less than 6 per day. So children between ages of 2 to 18. And so we really want to encourage our children right off the bat, I mean early in our homes, that added sugar is not a benefit for them. And so maybe a treat now and then, but it shouldn't be a normal and a daily source of nutrient for our children. The Office of Disease Control and Health Promotion recommends that added sugars account for no more than 10% of your daily calorie intake. Now, this does not include natural sugars that are found in fruits and vegetables like fructose. And so those don't count. Those are healthy. Those are important for us, and they are great for energy, and they're just good for us in general. But it's those added sugars that we take in that can be detrimental. And so what are some just conclusions as we end? So the consumption of soda and added sugar juices and beverages can be detrimental. They can cause health issues, long-term health issues, and also not just the added sugar, but what we are substituting those added sugar foods and drinks for will remove the amount of nutritious things that we could be drinking instead. And so we really need to focus on those waters, the whole fruits, no sugar added fruit juices and things like that in order to improve our health overall. And honestly, if you start drinking water mostly for about a month, you will see a massive difference in your energy level. Some suggest that it actually can clear up skin. Your skin can be cleared up. There's just a whole host of benefits of drinking water and focusing on those things. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And so we hope to see you again. And we really appreciate all that you're doing. And if you have any questions or comments, please get in touch with us. We thank you a lot.